Hi there. I want to talk a little bit about what you should consider when you're getting ready to share a Google document. And I think there's 3 questions you need to consider. What's your purpose for sharing? What are you trying to achieve through your sharing? Who needs access for editing and who needs access for viewing? Because depending on your purpose, you might have part of your audience that needs different access rights for editing and another part of your audience that needs just access for viewing. So let's take a look at that a little bit more closely. A couple other things about your sharing practice before we take a look at the sharing screen is that in general, I think it's best practice to keep your access and your visibility set to the most private setting that will allow you to get your audience the access that they need. You don't want to make it difficult for anyone to get access, but you want to keep it as private as possible that makes sense. And keep in mind, of course, that different audiences and different purposes require different settings, and that can be true when you're in the same exact document. So here's an example of the sharing window. When we click the share button, up pops all the information about our sharing settings for that current document. In this case, the document is private. It says that right here. Only myself, because I was the owner of the document, and Jennifer here have access to it, and Jennifer has editing privileges, which we can see here. This is just a screenshot, so I can't click on any of these, but I could click on this little arrow next to Can Edit, and then we would, I'd be able to change Jennifer's permissions. A window would pop up that's very similar to this window right here, and I could get her just commenting privileges or viewing, or I could click this X right here and get rid of her entirely from the editing. The way I added Jennifer, of course, was by adding her with her email address down here. Okay, and I gave her editing privileges here, which is the default. I could have, if I wanted to, send an email to her telling her that she had editing privileges, or I could have skipped that step and just had a conversation with her or something like that. But once I clicked share and save, that's how my editing was set. Of course, what we'll notice is that in addition to adding people this way and sharing that way, we have the ability to modify this level right up here, the privacy. I think of this more of access or visibility. And so I want to talk a little bit about what happens when we click this button right here, change. 90% of the time, you're going to keep this private, I think, but there are going to be some times when you're going to change this. So let's take a look at the window that pops up when you click that. So when you click that button, what pops up is more examples or more choices than just private. Again, private is always going to be the default. Then what you have is it moves from most private to least private. The least private being public on the web. Anybody on the internet can find it and can access it. That means it's even searchable. Eventually it would start showing up in people's Google searches, and no sign in is required. Okay, so you want to be thinking about what the access is in between these levels. Again, most of the time you're just going to leave it at private. These two in general are not that useful unless you have a specific reason, because people will still need to sign in. The one that's going to be most useful to you is this anyone with the link, because that allows you to set the privileges such that people don't have to sign in. So this is really important if your audience is like parents. You want parents to be able to see your document, but not necessarily change it in any way. You just want to be able to send the link out to your parents so that they can see your syllabus or something like that. So let me pull up a live sharing window just to talk about what that looks like. So let me pretend I'm going to share this presentation. So up popped this window. You can see it, and it's private. But when I click change here are my settings. Okay, let's click anybody with the link. We're going to click anything with the link, can access, and then we're going to okay, so back here, when I click anyone with the link, no sign in required, notice that the default is can view, because that's typically what you're going to want to do. But I could change this to can edit and can edit or can comment, but typically can view is going to be plenty. So in a case like this, so let's say I wanted anybody who wanted to be able to see this slideshow, but I don't want them to be able to change it, then I've got the right settings. Right now, anybody with the link can in fact view it. That's what it says here, but I'm still the owner, so nobody else can edit it. If I wanted to add a colleague here to be able to edit it with me, I could just by typing in their email address there. So let me go ahead and cancel that, and let's talk through an actual example. So, oops, click done. So here's an example. So here's a fourth grade teacher's supply list for what kids need to bring to school the first day of school. If we were going to share this with when we think about who the audience is, so we go back to thinking about what's our purpose? Our purpose is a way to get this list out to parents, right? Who needs access for editing? Maybe the other teachers on my team, because maybe we're just going to make one supply list for the whole grade level. That's a possibility. But chances are only me, the teacher, needs access for editing. Who needs access for viewing, though? All my parents. So this would be an example of where if I would pull up the window, I'm going to change this document to anybody with the link can view, and then I'm going to send out that link to all of my parents so that they could easily see what my supply list is. Nobody would need an account and nobody would need to sign in. So those are the things to consider when you are sharing a document with your students or with colleagues or with parents. Always think about your purpose, who needs access for editing, who needs access for viewing. The best practice is to always keep it as private as possible, and then just adjust for your different audiences and your different purposes. So now I think you're ready to take the sharing quiz.